Hello everyone, welcome to the session. So today's agenda is go over the various functions that we can actually use on a tuple, and we'll go ahead and learn like now how to get the length of the tuple and how to use the tuple method or tuple function to create a empty tuple, and how to use tuple for casting, and then how to count a particular item or like now the maybe a pattern we cannot actually do, but we can actually count a particular element in a tuple, and then we can actually find out the index, and then we can reverse a tuple, we can sort it as per the order, like now maybe ascending or descending order, and then we can get a mean, max, and then sum. And in when we are actually dealing with mean and max, make sure like the tuple element should be like, let's say if you are dealing with numbers, it should be numbers only. If you are dealing with strings, then you can actually get the minimum and maximum it. But you cannot actually use the combination. Let's say when you are actually having x, y, z, and then 1, 2, 3, and you cannot actually get the minimum and maximum out of it. Either everything should be string or everything should be like integer basically. And when I'm talking about like now numbers it could be like the decimal numbers or floating point numbers. We can actually do a minimum and maximum of it. Then sum, definitely it is for numerics only. This method is explicitly used only for numerics. We cannot use the sum on the elements when the element type is actually string. Then list, the last one is list. Ideally, list is actually used to do the casting. Whenever you want to actually cast a tuple to a list, type casting a tuple to list, you can actually use the list method. And let us get started and then start using the functions. And I'm just going to write a first program for today, and that is the method list method actually length, so tuple, then method or function, then alien. Let's say I have a tuple and defining the tuple like this. Top1 equals to, I have a tuple here, and then let's say it has my data Subbu and Mindir, and then the current year is 2022, and then I'm just giving like my current place is Bangalore, and then here I'm just giving like some information about my address. Okay, let's say house number 321. Okay, something like this, and then I have my bank balance. This is something not my real bank balance, but yeah, I'm just putting it in a floating point number. That's it. So let's say this is my tuple, and then how do we get the length of this tuple? So let me print the length of this tuple. Let's say number of items. Number of items that we can actually do here is I can specify like the top one. Okay. So now if I'm running this program, here you can see number of items. Okay, top one. So top one length or length of top one. Length of top one. Okay. So here you go. If I'm running this program, here you can see this like number of items are actually 6. Let's say my requirement is if number of items equals 6, if length of top one, let's say greater than equals to 5, then I'm just printing data is proper, for example. Data looks proper. What's else? Just putting it here, print. Data items are missing. Real-time example. Let's say you are actually making a RESTful web service call, and then, or you are actually making like any function call, and you are getting a return value as a tuple, and you are expecting if the return value is actually 6 items, then the response is okay. If the return items are actually not 6 items, then there is something not working as expected. or the partial data is actually available. So in that case, what you can do is you can definitely use the length function to identify how many elements are there. Now, if I'm running this program, here you can see it is saying data looks proper. I'm expecting 5 data, okay? Like here, if it is greater than 5, then get the last data. Then what I can say, like print the last element, and the last element I'm just going to print as top one of -1. Okay, -1, something like this we can actually definitely give. And why it is flagging error? Because we are missing a comma over here. If I'm running this program, here you can see last element is 123 432 34. Let's say your requirement is okay, and I want the last element, if it is greater than 5, I want the last element followed by, I want to actually cast it to integer type. Okay, so you can also do this, cast it to integer type. Now run the program, you can actually see the value here, the last element in integer, basically like casted it. We have typecasted to integer type. So this is how we can actually deal with the length. The next one I'm going to tell you is the tuple method. Let me write another program, Python file, and here I'm just giving tuple method. Okay, so now tuple method, we are actually going to use a tuple like this. Let's say, for example, I want to actually define an empty tuple like top1 equals to this one, then top2 equals to, I have like a list of numbers, for example, 67, right? So here I'm just giving if, one moment, we are supposed to use like a tuple method, not directly tuple, okay? Tuple, and then followed by like around brackets. It is actually empty tuple. If I'm just giving here, if not top1, if top1 is not empty, or like now let us see like what it's going to do. Print hello, let's say Control Shift F10. Here you can see it is printing hello because this tuple is an empty tuple. Okay, if not tuple1. So now in this case, you want like if tuple1 is actually empty, then what you can actually do, you can say like top1 equals to top2. Okay. So now I'm just giving here print. Here I'm just giving like top1. Let us see here. Control Shift F10. Here you can see the entire tuple data over here. This is one of the edge case, and then sometimes what you need is you need to cast it. So let's say I have a list one. I have a list one where I have the data. Let's say I have some alphabets, and then I do have some numbers, and I do have a Boolean value true. Okay. Now I want to make it as read only. Then what I can actually do here, if I'm just giving like if list is not empty, let me write a shortened if. Okay. If list, then or I can actually directly go ahead here to write a if block itself, and then here I'm just going to do here is, let's say top3 equals to tuple of list one. Now here I'm just printing print top3, and here I'm just going to print list one. Okay, so now if I'm running this program, here you can see like it is printing the data as expected, right? So what we are actually doing here is we are actually casting it. So tuple, using the tuple method, you can actually define an empty tuple, and agent when required, you can actually definitely cast it. Okay, whenever you want, like in a read-only copy of a particular list, you can definitely convert it to a tuple. Okay, because tuples are immutable. list is actually mutable. So this is how we can actually go ahead, deal with the tuple method. Similarly, the vice versa is also possible. Like let's say for example, tuple 2 is having 12, 23, 65, 45, and 67. Let's say your requirement is you want to actually add item to tuple, but tuple is immutable. We cannot actually do that. So now what I can actually do here is I can definitely do list2 equals to list of tuple 2, list of tuple 2. And now list2 dot add, I can list2 dot append, list2 dot append. Okay, so that is not add, that is append or insert or extend. These three things we can actually use it on a list. So now list2 dot append, I've just given here like let's say Subbu. Earlier it was like 12, 23, 45, and 67, and we have casted it using list2 equals to list of tuple 2, and we have converted these values to a list, and that is list2. Now list2 we have actually appended the data Subbu. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do here like tuple 2 equals to uh, tuple of list2, and then I'm just doing delete of list2. This is like we know tuple we cannot actually make any changes, but at times when we're like having a requirement to add a tuple element to a tuple, you need to actually cast it. You need to cast it first, and then what you need to do is you need to append or edit or like append, insert or extend or delete any elements. You can actually do that. Then again cast it back, okay, and then you can actually delete the scope. And if I go ahead and print the tuple, you can see it here. When if I'm running this program, here you can see it was like 12, 23, 45, 67. Now Subbu has been added, but this is not recommended. If you really want to actually like edit anything, or you want a mutable like data type, go for a list than tuple, because tuple the edge case is whenever you are not going to edit anything, you are not going to append anything, insert anything, or extend, or you want to actually delete anything, then go ahead with tuple. Whenever you want to modify, basically like all modification you want to actually do or deletion you want to do, then go ahead with the list. But this is how you can actually deal with a tuple. If there are times whenever you need it, you don't have any other option. This is how you can actually do it. So just be familiar with tuple method. Tuple is for casting, and casting list to a tuple. List method you can also use it for casting a tuple to a list. Okay, so vice versa is also possible. So this is how you can actually get the things done. So tuple method and list method is done. So now I'm just going to tell you about a count method. Now let me write another program. I'm just giving tuple function count. Sure. Here, I'm just going to tell you like how to use the count function on a tuple. Let me write a tuple 1, and tuple 1 I'll have like the multiple elements. Let me make it very simple by taking the numbers. So 12, 13, 1, 2, then I'm just giving 12 again, 13 again, then 25, and then just giving 11. Okay. So now ideally we should actually give one space after the comma. So that is what like best practice, but this is not part of the syntax. So here we go. So now I want to count the list of count of 12, element 12. Now what I can do here is print. I can give a tuple 1 dot. If you give dot, there are two methods are actually available: index count and index and count. How we can actually use it, I'm just going to give you one example here. Count of what I'm going to count of 12. Now here you can see, if you're running the program, here you can see it is actually returning 3. The count like 12 is present 3 times. Now, if your requirement is counting like a particular string. Let's say I have something like this Subbu, and then I have here, let's say Yuvagi. Okay, I have here like India, and then I have Subbu here. So now let us see like now how to count a string. So tuple can contain anything, floating point number, string, like decimal numbers, anything. Okay. Now count of Subbu, you can see it here right now, 2 times. What if the particular string is not present? Let's say here I'm just give me how many times India is present. Though India is here in capital case, it is actually going to tell, okay, India is actually not at all present. It is 0. So now it is not present. So it's saying like India is not present. Now how do we get the index? Let's say for example, whenever the requirement is to find out the first position of 12, for example this one, right? So now what I can do here is I can specify, give me the index of 12. Then here you can see it is giving like the index is 0 because it is actually present at 0. So if you want like index of 1, you can see 0, 1 and 2. So here you can see it is 2, the result is 2. Now if you want to find out the index of Subbu, you can definitely do that. You can actually give here like an index. So here you can see index of Subbu. Now it is actually printing index of Subbu is actually 9. Now if you are giving like something similar to here, like now let's say for example Shubhasis is not present, and index definitely going to give you value error because this value is not present. But that is how the index works, right? So now, as I suggested, this is the value error. So before executing, guys, the next step of programming is like whenever you are actually executing the program and writing the program, you should understand like which kind of error it is actually going to give, and do not look at like an output only. Always look at also like spend some time understanding what kind of error it is actually throwing, and have a sense and reading this like this is actually saying value error tuple index of x not in the tuple. That means x is not present in the tuple. Okay, so this is how we can actually find out the index, and this is actually going to throw error. Let's say for example, if your requirement is if your requirement is if in case we are actually getting any error message, let's say index is not present, and you want to actually you want to put together a message over there. So whenever programmatically you want to actually handle that, what we can actually do is we can definitely handle it. Let's say, for example, I have some error, okay, not this error message. So I can actually put it like this. If tuple index Subbu, um, if tuple dot index Subbu, and then or Subhasis, for example, Subhasis, okay. Now print success, else print failed. Now look at here, like now what is going to happen here? Definitely it is going to throw error, and then followed by what it is printing. Let us see what it is printing. It is, let us see. It is saying value error, and this is not actually available. So that means this condition is false. This condition Shubhasis is not present, but it is not printing like failed. This is the look at the behavior. Okay, it is interesting one. Okay, so now in this case, how do we handle it? How do we handle this situation? Okay, so now in this case, what we can actually do is we can definitely do something like this. Let's say if your requirement is this, and and your requirement is like now you are looking for Subhasis, don't use actually index like this. There are actually better ways. Once you are actually familiar with exception handling, you can handle it well. But as we have not done with exception handling at this moment, try to understand like now how we can actually print success or failure. Now here what I can actually do is if Subhas is in, let's say in tuple, I can specify here in tuple one, then success, and then here I'm just giving like no print tuple one dot index of Subhasis. Okay, so if it is not there, then I can say like it is failed. Let us see. Control Shift F10. If you do here, you can see it is actually failed. Okay. So now exception handling, we can actually do it differently. We really don't need like this condition. Basically, we can handle it like with the particular string or like matching pattern or element is actually present or not present. If it is returning value error, how to handle it in the exception handling, I'm just going to tell you in detail. So for now, this much is actually enough to understand like now how to get familiar with index and then count. Okay. So now the next method I'm just going to tell you is known as reverse. It's a reversed actually, not reverse, reversed, because we reverse and shut. These two methods we can actually use it on list. It modifies the original list basically, reverse and shut. But in tuple we do not have such methods like reverse and shut. We have to actually use reversed or shutted. So now I'm just going to write a program and I'll be using like the sorted and reversed over there. Now look at here. So this is the data what we have, and let me do one thing. Let us like take it all because in sorting it cannot actually compare a string less than. Basically, it will be using like ASCII comparisons. Either it should be all numbers or like all strings. So if we do like the combination, we'll be getting error. So now here, if I'm giving like print tuple one, so tuple one will be like printed as is. If I do print, if I do print shorted of tuple one, shorted of tuple one, and here you can see it is going to print like the sorted order actually. If you want to sorted in the reverse order, then what you can definitely do is you can do like reverse equals to true. Reverse equals to true. Now, if I'm running this program, here you can see it is actually printing, it is in the reverse order. Now, similarly, if you want to actually print in the reverse order, okay, maybe the tuple in the reverse order, this is sorted in the reverse order. But if you want to reverse the original tuple, let's say is like it is starting with 12, let's say I'm just starting with 1 here, okay, or 111 here, okay, run the program again, you can see it here, okay. Now, if I'm running this program, it should actually print 111, 11, 25 till 12. How do we do it? So I can actually give here like a reversed order and tuple one. So now, if you are running this program, here you can see it is actually printing a reverse object. This is a data type, reverse object are this. So now, if you want to convert a reverse object to a list, you can give a list. It will convert the like now entire tuple in the reverse order. Okay, and the casting of this it will be like a list actually. Okay, so now here you can see it is a list, but if you want like if you want the tuple output basically, so what you can do here is you can specify a tuple here. Okay, so now here you go. So you can see it returns a tuple. And one interesting thing you can notice, this sorted and this sorted in the reverse order, it returns a list. Okay, it returns a list. It returns a list, not a tuple. Okay, so tuple in the reverse order it returns a list. But if you want to explicitly cast it, okay, then what you need to do is you need to use the tuple method. That is sorted of. Here you can do it casting tuple sorted of tuple, and it returns a tuple here. Okay, and similarly, if you give tuple here, and it returns a tuple too. That's a tuple. So just remember this: sorted returns a list, even if it is a tuple. And if your requirement is to sort it like now, and then get a tuple, you can actually do that. Now, if you focus here in the documentation, here it says like returns a new list. It returns a new list of all items from the iterable. It doesn't say whether it's a tuple or whether it is a like list. So it will be returning a list always. Whether it is a list, in case of list, it is going to return as a list. In case of a tuple, also it is going to return as a list. And whenever you want to actually cast it to the tuple, then explicitly you need to call the tuple method. Okay. So now this is how it works. So now reversed, sorted, and then all these things you can actually see reverse, and sorted. Okay. So now I'm just going to tell you few more methods which we can actually use in case of tuple. Okay, on a tuple basically. So now here I'm just going to tell the tuple, and we have minimum, maximum, and sum. Minimum, maximum, and sum. Here we go. And if I print print minimum of the tuple one, I can actually execute the program. Here you can see this is the minimum value. What if like one is present multiple times? Is it going to print multiple times? No, it is going to print only one time. Okay, it is one. Now, if I'm like my requirement is getting a max, I can actually get a max of it. So I can give it was correct only. So I can give max of this one. Here you can see it is like 111. So if you want to find out the sum of tuple one, you can definitely give a sum of tuple one. Now here we go. You can get the sum of tuple one is actually 202. If you want average of this, okay, average of this particular values, then what we can do in case of numeric, okay, only numbers, you can actually do that. Like what I can do here is this is the average length of then tuple one. So this is also possible. Now here we go. If I'm running this program, this is the average. Okay, this is the average. Okay, so then if your requirement is getting the minimum maximum of a tuple which contains strings, only strings, how do we do it? Let's say tuple one, tuple two I can give, and then let me put alphabets only, but like the simplification, we can actually uh, use this. I'll just put it in the not in the order. So I'll just put it here as Z, and then here I'm just giving A, and then I'm just giving here D, or I can specify here as Y, basically. Okay. So now if I say give me the minimum and maximum of tuple two, and minimum will be A, and maximum will be minimum of tuple two. Here it is going to give us A, and maximum of tuple two is going to give me Z. So now if I'm running this program, here you can see A and Z. What if I'm having certain other characters? Let's say I have a space, and here I do have a at the rate, and here I do have small case A. Now in this case also it is going to work fine. Okay, so it is giving no space here. Actually, the result is space here. If you want to actually understand this, whether it is a space or not, you can actually put a for more readability. We can actually put together a bracket or something like this. Be for your readability, I'm just putting it here and minimum to this, and just putting here some values like this. Okay. Now here you see it is going to print a space, and then as you are giving like the comma separator, so it is actually giving extra spaces. You can say like the separator is nothing, don't give any extra separators. Now here you can see the output is actually space. Okay, so this is printing space, space is having the minimum value. Now here it is printing the maximum value. Now the question is, if it is printing the minimum value and maximum value, how would I know like now how it is actually getting the minimum value and maximum value? What is the ASCII of it? Okay, so what you can do here is you can definitely give a def, then minimum of I can give a tuple 2. So and then maximum also we can actually do the same way. Like what is the numeric equivalent or ASCII equivalent of like the minimum value and maximum value? We can actually do that using ORT method. Now here it's saying like it is 32, it is 97. So A is actually 97 and space is actually 32. So now you are having 32. Now you want to print CHR of CHR of 32. Give me what is the CHR of 32, followed by give me what is the CHR of 97. Just for verification, you can actually see how it is actually space followed by A. Okay, space followed by A. This is how you can actually use multiple methods, and these are like some of the methods to get started with the tuple. Now, in this example, we have used minimum, maximum on numbers, minimum, maximum on strings, but we cannot actually combine both. Let's say, for example, I'm having like a tuple 3, and just to experience error, I'm just going to extend this program and have a tuple with like string and integers, and then try to get like the minimum and maximum of this particular tuple. Now, if I'm giving like tuple 2 is here, and then my requirement is get me in the minimum and maximum of tuple 3, for example, here tuple 2 is already used here, and then I'm just using like a tuple 3 and tuple 3 here. And definitely we are actually going to, okay, going to get error over here, okay. Now, if I'm running this program, here you see what is not supported. It is saying this comparison is not supported between instances of integer and string. Okay, not supported. So type error, it is actually going to give us the output as like type error. Minimum and maximum is not supported, so they are terminated with this error. So this is not supported, so we cannot actually do this. Then if you are actually doing a sum, what is going to happen? We are definitely going to get error. It is actually the addition is actually not possible on a string and then followed by like the integer basically. Okay, string and integer you cannot add it. Either string you can do, that is known as concatenation, or integer with integer or number with number is known as addition. Okay, you cannot add an integer with string, so this is unsupported operand. Okay, so if you are getting like unsupported operand, then there is a type issue. And if you're getting not supported between instances, that means definitely it is something wrong with the type of your data in this case. So it's not tuple here, it is a list I have given. So now let me give it like a tuple here. Did I use a list over there? Okay, I see, that was a mistake. Okay, so now here what you can do is you can actually do this, and let me check the other one is correct. So it should actually throw error. So now here it is actually throwing the error. So now let me comment it out. So this is not also supported. And then if you want to print top 3, you can definitely give it top 3. Okay, now run the program. Run the program. Here we go, and here you can see all the result over here. So this is all about the methods of the tuple, and then these are the basics that you should actually know. So we have gone through all these min, max, sum, and list. What is next is, let's say there is something concept is known as comprehension. In the comprehension, what we are actually going to do, we can actually flatten a nested list or a tuple. Like, what do you mean by flattening a nested list or a tuple? Let us go through the example and to understand it, okay? So now I'm just giving here uh, Python file. I'm just giving like flatter list. So now here we go. Let me write down a nested list first, okay? Because we are going to let's say list one L1 equals to, I have a nested list. This is the first element, second element is another list, third element is another list. So now here I've just given 12, 13 and 14. The second one I have Subbu, TP, and third one is I'm having like let's say combination, let's say India, US, and then 12 and 23.34, for example. Okay, so these are the values that I have. US should be quoted as string, and then 12, then 23.34. Okay, so that's all. Now the question is, I want to flat it, and I want to store it in another list, and the list should contain like elements like 12, 13, 14, comma Subbu, comma TP, comma India, comma US, 12, 23, and 30, 12 and 23.34. How do we do it? Let us do it like using a very simple approach first. Now I'm just creating a list, or I can simply do this one. Okay, well, empty list. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this like for let's say item in L1 or L1 like all are sublists, or I can actually say here like for sublist in L1, then here I can do for item in sublist, okay, item in sublist. Now print, here I'm just giving like an item. Let us see. Let us see like what it is going to do first. Now here I'm just giving the end equals to space. If I'm running this program, here you can see it is printing 12, 13, 14, Subbu, TP, India, and then till 23.34. I want everything in the list. I don't actually print it like this. Then in that case, what I can actually do is I can tell here like L2 dot append of sub item basically. Okay, L2 dot append dot item. Now if I do print L2, print L2, what it is going to do? It is going to print it as a list. So this is known as flattening a list. But the question is, in this case, we have written how many lines of code? 5 lines of code or 4 lines of code to do the same thing. Now let me tell you, like how do we do it using list comprehension? Okay, list comprehension. How do we do it? It will look little complex, but it is very easy. I'll explain you like now how it works. Let's say L3 is a list. What we want here? Think about it. We are having 2 for loops, and we are actually getting the item appended to the list. Okay, here I'm just going to tell L3 is item, but what is item? The program cannot actually understand it. What is item? I'm just saying, okay, L3 is item, and what is item? Now item is present in the sub list. Item is present in the sub list. And what is sub list? Now sub list is present in my list. So now this is how the code is going to look like. You should, like whenever you are having something like this, you can break it to a loop, like now like a block, to understand it in a better way. Or else if a for loop or like nested for loops are actually there to generate a list, then you can actually use it using list comprehension. So this is known as list comprehension. Now you can say, like, do we need this for loop? Do we need another for loop? And the variables are actually seems to be different. Let's say I'm just giving I, And what is I? I is item, let's say SL. SL I'm just giving sublist. Okay, there is no relation between this nested for loop and this line. SL, I can say SL in L1. That's it. Okay. Now if I print L3, if I print L3, what it is going to do? It is actually going to do the same thing. It is going to print name error. SL is actually not present for SL in for I in SL. Just give me a second, guys. What went wrong here? I'm just trying to figure it out. Should work actually as is. So what's going wrong? L3 is okay. Name error SL is not defined. Okay. For I in SL is the sublist, and for okay, it should be other way around. For SL in L1 and for I in SL. Okay, here we go. So it will be other way around. So what we need to do is like now for like let's say for example, if you want to use this same fashion, like now to do this, you can actually do like this. Let's say L4. L4 equals to, here I can say item. What is my item? Now for sublist in L1, for item in sublist, that's it. Okay, so now L4 and L3, and if I giving like now print L4, here we go. If I'm running this program, here we see it is giving us like now the flattening of the list. If you want to actually print directly, like without using like any variables over there, you can still do that. Like now print, then do this. Okay, now if I'm running this program, you can see like this is what is actually happening. So whenever you want to actually flatten it, you can actually do that. Now the question is, why do we flatten it? Let's say I have a list of like different countries, or else something like this. One moment, I'm just going to tell you. New Python file, okay, and then I'm just giving search in sublist, search in sublist. Okay, now here we go. If I'm specifying a value like this, or else I'm just going to give like this. Okay, let's say I'm just giving, let's say cloud is AWS and name is Subbu. Name is Subbu. Then like exploring in 2022, and then here I have TP, and TP is exploring Azure, and then let's say started exploring in 2021. Then I do have one more, let's say Deva, and Deva started exploring like 2019, and let's say started exploring GCP. Now, my requirement is I want to search in this list if Azure is present. If I'm giving like no print Azure in L1, it is going to print false. Let's say if Azure present in L1, it is going to print false because it cannot search. You need to give like now leave TP and everything present in. Okay, I'm not going to disturb it. So now if I'm giving, if this is in the list L1, it is going to print as true. It is going to print as true. Now if I'm giving this, it is printing true, and here it is printing as false. Now your requirement is, I don't mind where is Azure, where is AWS, where is GCP. My requirement is find out if GCP is present in this entire list. I don't know whether it is in the element 1 or element 2 or element 3. Is GCP present? You have two options. You are not familiar with list comprehension. You are actually familiar with list comprehension. Assume you are not familiar with list comprehension. What you can actually do for item in, or for let's say I'm just giving like an I in L1. If Azure in I, print present. Present where? Present in, or I can say Azure present in, or something like this I can give. Where Azure is present? Now present in I. Now look at here. If I'm running this program, here you can see, okay, one moment, in Azure, then here I need another for loop because it's a nested one. For here I'm just giving SL, and SL as in sublist. For I in SL, for I in SL, if Azure in I, then print this. Okay, so now let us see. Azure in SL. One moment, I'm just doing something wrong here. For sublist we got it like now. For sublist in list, and for I in sublist, it should not be I, it should be Azure in sublist. Today what's going wrong here? Azure in sublist. If Azure in sublist, then what we can actually do? Azure is present in present. Let's say for example, Azure is present in sublist. For example, I'm just giving this. So let us say running this program. Here we go. Invalid syntax. Perhaps I forgot a comma. Yes, I forgot a comma here. So now here we go. So now Azure is present if you Azure in 2011. So now if my requirement is without using this, if my requirement is to find out like now if Azure is present, then what we can actually do here is we can simply type this one, like print. I can use a list comprehension here. What I'm looking for all items. What are the items? Now I can say for SL in L1, for item in SL. That's it. So if I'm running this, then it is actually going to print all the items basically. It's going to print all the items. If I'm running this program, it is printing all the items like this. If your requirement is find out if Azure is present, I can directly give here, give me the index of Azure. If Azure is present, then give me the index. Now here you go. If you're running this program, you are getting like Azure is actually present in index 4. If your requirement is okay, fine. I want to know like how many people are actually certified. How many people are actually certified in Azure? How many people are certified in Azure? Let's say I'm just giving here Tanmay. Okay, Tanmay. Now here Tanmay is certified also Azure, and then TP is also certified in 2021. Let's say I'm just going to find out like how many people are actually certified in Azure. I can directly count it here. Click count Azure. Count Azure. Now look at here. It is going to give me 2. Okay, so these many people are actually present, certified in Azure. So it depends on your data what you are actually dealing. Okay, whether you need the list flattening or you want to flat the list, you can actually go ahead with go ahead with a looping concept, or else you can go ahead with a comprehension. Most of the cases in real time, people will be like using comprehension. They will not actually use like a list over here. So you should actually able to understand what is item for SL in L1 for again. So what's happening here? This is happening because we do have like similar kind of data like this. I'm just giving one more example, like a tuple comprehension. Like how do we do it? It's again the same thing. Only in case of square bracket, we are going to use like a moon bracket or round bracket. Now new Python file, and I'm just giving like search in nested tuple, nested tuple. And this is also known as like it's use case of comprehension. Okay, let's say my tuple, and I do have like everything is tuple, and we can actually have a combination too. Let's say for example, look at here, I have a first element is a tuple, second element is a list, third element is again a tuple, fourth element is again a list, and then what I have here is I'm just like enclosed it in moon bracket. Now here I'm just going to figure out like whether it is present, IGD is present or not present. Okay. So now if I'm giving here, let's say for example, running this program, here you can see it does the same thing, exact same thing, only the changes we have actually used a comprehension. Okay, and that is tuple comprehension in this case. And while doing the tuple comprehension, you can actually use count function, you can actually use index function. If it is a list comprehension, then definitely in this case it is a list comprehension. Like how why I am actually telling like a list comprehension, because it is going to return as a list. See here, it is going to return as a list. If I'm running this program, here you can see it is returning a list. Okay, so all list methods. If I put here like dot, you can see sort, the index, append, count, pop, everything you can do. Let's say, for example, you are actually flattening this list, and then you want to get the last item. Then what you can do here is you can definitely use a pop. It is going to give you like 2021. If I'm running this program, you are actually going to give a 2021 here. Anything. It's not like only index, count you can actually use on list, because basically this is a list and we can actually use all the list functions. If you do use a like a tuple comprehension, for example, the same one, I'm just closing it in, closing it in uh, parenthesis or round brackets. Now here you can see what is returning. It is using a generator object. Okay. To generator object, when you are actually output is actually generator object, you will be actually wondering what is this, because I am going to tell you like what is generators and all in the methods basically, or in the functions. But for now, whenever you are actually getting generators, that is it has like the data which can be converted to a list or a tuple. So now explicitly what we need to do here is you can actually specify cast it to a tuple. Okay, cast it to a tuple. Like if I'm running this program, I think I'm missing a okay, nothing. Okay, it's not missing. So now here we can give a list. It is going to give a list. So this is how we can actually go ahead, deal with deal with uh, the the comprehension of a tuple or list comprehension, tuple comprehension. Okay, and then searching and applying all the methods whatever we are familiar with tuple, and then uh, tuple, and then whatever the options you are actually familiar with, uh, list, we can actually use that. Okay, so with this we are actually done for today.